All right, you know what it is. This is the Big Douglas Show here for another excellent edition on a Friday. We're in the camp now. We've been looking at the defense this week. I've got two great guests with me today from 106.7 The Fan. Ryan Clary is with us. Ryan.
Doing? What's going on, guys?
Not much.
Pleasure to be on.
First time on the show. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Adam Aniba from the Burgundy and Gold Report is here. Adam, it's been a long time. Glad to have you back on again.
Yeah, it's been too long, man. Finally back on Chop It Up, man. Definitely looking forward to it.
It has. Now, Ryan, you're a Virginia guy. You're a lifer in this thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
You were forced into this fandom through birth or what?
Yeah, no. So my dad's actually from New York, but his father, so my grandfather is from the D.C. area. So, I mean, it's been generation after generation for Redskins fans here. So.
And currently you're producing the Grant and Danny show, yes?
Yep. Yeah, no, I produce Grant and Danny show on 106.7. I also do another non-sports podcast, Bit Season, with Drab T-Shirt, Fat Valdez, all that. So,
tell the folks at home, for those that don't really understand, I think people hear producer of a radio show, don't necessarily know what that involves. Why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit what it is you do for the show?
Yeah, so I mean, different things I do every day is like booking guest wise. So every day we have the Beltway Blitz, and so what we like to do in that segment is we get a beat reporter for each sports team. So we try to get three teams, whether it's always the Commanders, the Nationals, the Caps, the Wizards. Between those four teams, we like to get someone every day. So I have to book one of those, and then just looking through different content every single day, whether it be from your guys' show, just looking for different angles to talk football, Commanders, Nats. Like with this week, it's been Juan Soto and basically Juan Soto only with the Nationals. So you never know what you're going to get week in and week out, but a ton of fun. So,
and Adam, you're up in New York, is that right?
Yeah. Upstate country, New York. Yeah, but again, I'm born and raised in DC and in the suburbs of DC and Silver Spring, but always about Washington. Even up here, the Giants fans are just they're not really into it as much as they used to be. So
interesting. And Adam does an interesting lane in the sports world. He's into the small school guys, and I dig it. And we'll get to talking about one of those small school guys coming up because Percy Butler, by all accounts, has shown up big time at camp. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and transition a little bit. We have been doing defense all week, but I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about the offense because all things start and run through the quarterback. It's amazing. You know, you're either the have or the have-nots. You either have one or you don't. Commanders have been playing in this wish we had one role for a while. They've been trying to get one. It was Ryan Fitzpatrick last year. I think people forget that it was not Taylor Heineke was not the plan when we started out the year last year.
Yeah.
He did his best to fill in. We know what they wanted to do. I think that's what they're trying to do again this year. Ryan, I'll start with you. I'm curious what your thoughts were when they made the move for Carson Wentz, and have your opinions changed at all since they made that move?
So yeah, when we first made the move, like I'm going to be honest, I was still rung up from the week 18 game against the Jaguars to where they just had to beat the worst team in football to make the playoffs, and they couldn't get that done. And especially with Wentz, he had a really tough game and he was just getting hit, making bad decision after bad decision. So I was still kind of caught up with that. But then once everything cleared, once the smoke cleared, I kind of sat down and just took a step back and realized that, is Carson Wentz better than Taylor Heineke? The answer to that question, it comes up as yes, he is. So we did make an improvement at the QB position. Once you sit down, you look at it, you look at the decisions that they each make week in and week out. So I think it was the move that they needed to make. They needed someone to hang their hat on, and I think Wentz can be that guy if things go his way. So that's something we'll just have to see as this keeps on playing out.
Adam, it's interesting because I hear people all the time saying, we could have waited, and then Matt Ryan had been available. I could have waited, and Baker Mayfield. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is still out there. Now, There's a school of thought where it was time to tear the whole thing down, run on another year with Taylor Heineke, and hope for the best draft pick you can get and really start over. I'm not mad at the franchise for getting Carson Wentz early. To me, you either got Carson Wentz or you tanked. And I don't think they were in the position to tank. So take out what they gave up, right? Because I think if he plays well, you won't care about what they gave up. Do you think that this year you've got a better chance to see the 2019 version, or frankly, the first half of last year version? Or do you think what we saw at the end of last year for Carson Wentz really is the Carson Wentz that we expect to see this year?
Well, I'll say this. In the process, when they got Carson Wentz, again, yeah, you talk about compensation, but this was a move on the field and off the field. This team has a total restructure as far as culture going. They have to, Terry McLaurin can't be your only face of the franchise. You got to find that quarterback. So the only thing that I look at with him is his longevity and health. And when we finally signed him, I watched all the Indianapolis games, and one thing was clear to me. That team leaned heavily on Jonathan Taylor, and the offensive weapons really weren't there, and arguably the worst offensive line in football due to, injuries and other reasons. So frankly, I think under the circumstances, he did pretty well. And for him to stay as durable as did, granted, he fought through injuries. You could tell there was some games here and there you could tell that back, whatever was, was bothering him. But that's my number one concern right now. I'm happy that they got it, but I guess I'm in the school of thought that the 70% clause, if he plays 70%, we have to give up the second round next year. If we can get that far, again, like you said, the compensation won't matter. But he has not shown that he can stay healthy. That's my concern. But in saying that, with Turner, I think you can do a hell of a lot more with him. I was screaming last year, move that pocket for Taylor Heineke. But what you have to understand is with his height, even when you move that pocket, a lot of tip balls, a lot of defenders getting their arms on the ball. But with Carson Wentz, he gives you that size that at least he can throw for that front line. Yeah. What the receivers can do with it, it's on them. But I think we've seen just early on, he's going to get it downfield. I was talking about spaces this morning. I haven't seen many underthrows, overthrows, and that's what I'm looking for in camp. The interceptions don't matter because what he's doing is he's testing his receivers' windows. Like, that's how he gets to know his guys. Everyone thinks that, long catch radius, 6'5", 6'6", the Cam Sims, the Cole Turners, that's all that matters. But for the most part, when they're running those slants inside moves, they're catching it inside. Are they letting it into their body or are they outreaching? So that's the things that, he's going to test. And you're going to see some interceptions come. But what he's done so far, again, I think that he's testing the waters, seeing what he has, but I think this is going to be, maybe it's a bold statement, but the best offensive supporting cast he's probably ever had from top to bottom. There is question marks here and there, but, what they did at the running back position, the additions at wide receiver, if Curtis Samuels can stay healthy, luckily, I don't think that's something they'll have to rely on because I think Dotson, no matter what, is your number two after Terry McLaurin. But, I wrote an article about J.D. McKissick. That's another receiver that you have going. So I think this is his best supporting cast and his best chance to really have long-term success in D.C.
Yeah, I've said this a couple times. 80 receptions 2 years ago for McKissick. It's not that they won't get the ball to him. Yeah. They want to. The other thing I think is interesting that you pointed out, Adam, and I said this maybe halfway through the season last year, people were saying that, right? Why aren't we getting Heineke on the move? It's not because the offensive coordinator didn't want to. I assure you that he obviously proved to them he couldn't throw on the move because you saw when he went out and they brought in any of the backups, what they did, they immediately moved the pocket. And so, again, it's not show me or tell me, right? It's like I can see what you're doing. If you're willing to roll out other quarterbacks, it was obvious they didn't think he could throw very well on the move or that his height precluded him from doing so. Ryan, we're back to the the boss of the side field. Are you concerned about Samuels outside?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to be honest. I'm very concerned with Curtis Samuel. And here's the thing. It's not even that it's Curtis Samuel's fault here. I just think that we haven't really gotten the full truth to the side of the story with his injuries and these different reports coming out. Some are saying that he has lower back tightness. Some are saying that it could be a hamstring. And then, of course, the calf from last year that back in 2021 with the OTAs, he was telling us he'll be fine for training camp, no problem. And then training camp, he basically missed the entire thing. And he missed the first few weeks of games. So I'm certainly concerned about it, and everyone should be concerned about it. We paid this guy to be a wide receiver too in this system. I still believe he's top 28 paid wide receiver in the game right now.
Yes.
So, I mean, we're paying him to be good and out there. And so the fact that he's not, I think today he was out there, or was it yesterday? I don't know. It all blends.
Today he was back on the side field this morning.
Oh, man. So, see, like it just concerns me. Like, you just never really know what's going to be going on until we see him out there. And I want to see him out there for a week and 2 weeks and build from that. So it's concerning. And everyone, again, should be very concerned right now because no one knows what's going on with him and when he'll be back out there. So, we'll
in fairness, it sounds like an abundance of caution.
Yeah.
Also tied in with a little bit of it sounds like this is not a core thing. It's more maybe, that first day you go to the gym and you hadn't been to the gym in a couple of months. And then 3 days later, the next day you're feeling great. And then 3 days later, you're like, geez, my shoulder.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what we've got going on here. Let's hope. But
that's what I'm hoping for as
does
well.
Not make you feel great.
It doesn't. And it's not even Curtis Samuel here. Like if this was pick Wes Schweitzer, just for example, I wouldn't be concerned with it. I've seen it with him. He's going to go out there and he's going to play through injuries. But since we had this track record with Curtis Samuel and Ron Rivera, I don't want to say lying, but not really telling the full truth to it, I'm so concerned. And that's really all I'm concerned about right now. So
more fumbles for Gibson in camp, Adam. He's got to watch out because Brian Robinson is there for a reason. I'm not suggesting that Brian Robinson's going to end the season as running back one, but you've got to imagine the leash is getting shorter by the day with the fumbling issues for Gibson.
I'm a diehard Alabama fan since Chris Samuels was drafted. And I'll say this, as soon as they got Robinson in the third, I knew exactly what was going on. It's not really putting Gibson on the fence. I think that they need to just realize, what they have in him and to get him out more in space as a receiver. That's what he does well. You talk about the fun issues, what he did in Memphis, the way he was running and catching as a wide receiver, like we talk about Pollard for Dallas, you talk about the kid in Philadelphia. I evaluated all of them. They're the same style and try to get this guy to be a bell cow back. That's not his role. I think, he's better served as coming in and giving you, 6 to 10 carries a game. But Robinson, he's the guy to me that, you're running on first down, short goal line situations, short yardage. I think it's not crazy to say that he is going to end up, being the, if you want to call it starter, but he'll have the most carries at the end of the year. Him and Mckissick, because I think Mckissick, he's shown he can do it inside out. Because you're talking about Gibson, he's only a couple years removed. Now, Mckissick, he was a former receiver at Arkansas State, but now he's had years to get it. Everyone said, why Detroit let him go? Well, it's taken years to really refine his route running, and his ability as a receiver. Because what I love seeing in camp, when he's targeted, the first thing when he's doing drills, one thing he practices from the jugs is as he's catching it, he's already turning to run right away. That's something you don't see running backs really do. You just see them catching it on the fly with the jugs machine. But he's already got the idea. He's anticipating to get a dump off and take it to the house. We saw it at Atlanta, and I think if he stays healthy, we're going to see a huge season from him. So Gibson, I love Gibson. I evaluated him coming out, but I really think that he has to do a lot this year, and it has to be in the receiving game. Because I think that you saw the wear and tear with him. I just think, although he looks the role, he has the body for it. Since he was on JUCO, because that's when I started watching his film. I went back to the JUCO level. Even on then, they had a good mix of run and pass. It was close to 50-50. At Memphis, it was like 65 reception to his running. So I think in that situation, that's the best way to utilize him. But the fumbling issues, that turns everything upside down. If that continues, he'll just see carries taken away in general for that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I looked at it, was I think it was like 220 carries for Gibson last year, which is a huge number.
Yeah.
And Patterson got 70 carries last year. So, I mean, there are a lot of running back touches to be had. Yeah. And you looked it up, Ryan, it was right around 220 for Gibson.
Right? It was right around 2 here. It looks like my computer's so slow.
No, that's fine. But just say for the sake, it's 220. You take 40 carries from him and get him down, under 200, And then you take Patterson, who unfortunately I think the fan favorite's probably a casualty this year. I don't see where he makes it, particularly if you've got to keep 3 quarterbacks. And I think you do have to keep 3 quarterbacks this year. They haven't had to, but there's no way they get the rookie through practice squad, I doubt. So
no,
I think it'll be interesting. I think they need Gibson in the passing game more, and I think they'll utilize him that way. I find it really interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah.
All right. This week we've been doing defense. Let's get back to it. A lot of this week we've been seeing, and I love this. Johnny Local and I on Twitter talked about this since last year. This 5-man defensive front that we like to call the shark attack defense. I love it. I think it uses what we do best. We'll get back to the defensive line in a second. What they've been backing it up with is 2 linebackers. To me, the linebackers got to be the weakest position group on the team. Ryan, we just had 2 more. One went to IR. Yep. We had another one retire. You and I were talking before we started this. I can't even remember the last time I heard one young guy retire, much less 2 guys retire in one offseason. The team is hurting for linebackers. Coaching staff keeps it kind of making you feel like they're looking for one. Show me, because you haven't signed one. They've signed a corner, no linebackers. Yeah. Maybe they're not concerned about linebackers.
I don't know. Like it's something that just doesn't really make sense to me as of right now. You know, I'm looking at the linebackers, and you have Jamin Davis coming off a pretty rough rookie year. Let's just say he didn't really flash too much. I like Cole Holcomb, but if we're going to be honest with ourselves, Cole Holcomb is a good linebacker, but I don't know if he's going to be a great one to be leading your defense. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities to go sign one this year. There's plenty of free agents. Anthony Barr just signed with Dallas yesterday or a few days ago. And so he would have been another guy that could have helped out the linebacker core. And plus, they just need a younger or an older vet, kind of like with Thomas Davis back in the day, to at least help mold these young linebackers who still need a lot of time to build, in my opinion.
Yeah, John Bostic was kind of that guy last year before he got hurt.
Yeah.
Adam, what's the chance they're not concerned about the linebackers because they plan on just running a lot of that big safety instead, like the Landon Collins type position, the Buffalo nickel, if you will, that we hear so much about? Is that the reason why the linebacker position hasn't been as important in their minds? And then I guess the follow-up to that is football changing? Is the way we play football changing enough to where we're getting to the point where you need one run and cover linebacker in the middle, and then you surround him with bigger tweener safeties that can cover these running backs that are going out into the formation, and tight ends that are more like slot receivers and wide receivers than they are the old blockers? Have we moved on from 3 linebacker sets?
Oh, I think in Washington they have, but I think
certainly in Washington,
I think they're concerned with their depth, and I think if they were going to be, in the market, they are now. Your backs are against the wall. This is camp. It's not about 53. You have 90 plus roster spots, so I think they're going to sign someone regardless. But in saying that, I agree. We were talking about down Spaces all morning that they're going to be, Ron specifically said 53% multiple times when he talked about Percy Butler. I wrote about that guy. And the part that's a little confusing with me is, evaluating all his tape, that guy is a deep guy. He's not a guy that you're going to have close to the line. He's not the Landon Collins guy. So who's going to be in that role? McCain, he's a little undersized for that. So he's that free safety slot tweener guy. He's not a linebacker tweener. So to me, they're probably counting a lot right now on Khaleke Hudson. And we're hearing a lot of good things about Forrest right now. That's a guy that I want to do a deep dive into, because I think he does have some decent size where he can do that. But to me, it's a big concern. But I think with Ron spelling it out, I think we're going to see, 3 safety looks. It's a 53% he mentioned. I bet we'll see that closer to 60. And I think it'll be out of necessity. But when they start facing those even if they're not run heavy, if they, try to go run heavy on Washington, they're going to have to adjust. And you can't continue to have safeties like that, close to the line, because, we've seen what happened with linemen throwing them around. So I think they will look at somebody. I have to look at the, available list right now. But I think what makes more sense is you probably won't see a real ad. You'll see a street guy, but you won't see like a vet free agent probably after the first game of preseason.
Yeah.
That's when I think they'll show urgency with that.
Ryan, we're in year 2 of Jamin Davis. By all accounts, he's still out there running with the second teamers.
Yep.
I mean, we talk about Cole Holcomb and David Mayo again.
Yeah.
If I got to see David Mayo out on the field week 1, then somebody didn't do their job, right? I mean, it's
of course.
visible.
Yeah, David. I mean, listen, this is no knock on David Mayo, but he should not be out on the field with the starting units on a should be very good defense led by Del Rio and Rivera, and it's just so jarring because if you look back at the other systems that Del Rio and Rivera have been a part of, linebackers ever been an issue for either of those guys. And so here in Washington, they just can't figure it out. And it's something as an organization we haven't been able to figure out since London Fletcher or the 1 year Will Compton had and made it a lot of fun. So I don't know what we can do at this point, but hey, I mean, there's someone last year who kind of stepped in the Buffalo nickel job with Landon Collins, who's still on the market. So maybe he's someone to look out for to fill in another position, maybe help them again. Who knows? So
I don't see why there's any reason why there couldn't be a reunion there between Collins. He played the position exactly the way they wanted it to.
Exactly.
He already knows it. The money's already been spent. So, I mean, the new contract is not going to be a big one.
Yeah.
Now, I am concerned, just as I would be with any linebacker that they'd add right now. There's a reason why these guys aren't on a team right now, and it's not because they're awesome.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it does concern me a little bit that maybe the rest of the league sees what Washington sees, and that even as well as he played in the position last year, that, if he takes even a half a step slower, that he's washed. And Ron, if nothing else, has proven that he'd prefer to go young. Adam, you mentioned him. I think Forrest is a perfect, example of that, of a guy that they're obviously getting first reps to. Another guy I know you've covered and studied closely, Adam, and I have a hard time understanding it. I'm a huge Jeremy Reeves guy. I don't know why he can't get an opportunity on the field, because it feels like when him and Curl were on the field together, the communication was great. Now, supposedly McCain and the communication is great again, but I'm surprised that he gets zero run. Are you?
Very. I think that, I think they're trying to create, chemistry between those two back there. But again, McCain, he showed the same thing with Miami. I don't know why all of a sudden Washington, thinks that, he could be a full-time free safety. I don't see it. I think that they're better served with, and we're talking about Percy Butler. They believe that too. Because, they spent the 4th round on him. Ron has talked about him probably more than any other of the, the day 3 picks. But it is a little bit perplexing. But Forrest, to me, he makes the most sense to be in that Buffalo nickel role right now. But again, then who's going out? Is McCain going to go out? Does that'll cost Butler reps? Because one thing that Ron said is Butler's going to play. They asked him about special teams contributed because he was a beast at Louisiana. He was laying wood all day long. But when Ron was asked about that, he said, you got to be careful with playing guys like, if you're playing guys higher than 50%, you're not going to want to put them on special teams. So it sounds like, and this was before OTAs, he said this. So I think that that's the plan right now, are those 3 guys all, meshing somewhere at the free safety, Buffalo nickel with, Kerm Curl. I don't understand how he can't come off the field at all. Because right now, he's out of everyone in your defense, he's a guy that plays 100 snaps. So it'll be interesting. Are they going to do like a kind of rotation? Are we going to see some new looks? I hope so. But again, with Del Rio, I've always considered him a dinosaur. And I'd be a little surprised if we see too much of that hybrid look. But to me, it sounds like that's what Ron Rivera wants to do. And if that's what Ron wants to do, I think we could, I think he's definitely more involved with the defensive side of the ball than he's the offensive side, and it's for obvious reasons. So I think that they have some kind of plan, because I think we would have seen someone even before today with the linebackers, maybe another linebacker signed. And, Barr, for all the fans saying, why did they sign him? Another injury history guy the last 2 years. I liked him, but I thought he would have probably been a good move. But I understand, you're not really trying to bring in somebody that's had an injury last year for someone who's injured now. So I think that they want to roll. They'll go through the first preseason game before we'll see any, real vets.
It's interesting with Del Rio and Ron because it feels like when they got here, I was talking about this on Monday's show. I had the feeling that it was Ron who was the dinosaur and Del Rio who was maybe more willing to give a little bit and be flexible, just because like those defenses were always good under Del Rio. And even his stint as the head coach, as a head coach, were good years and good defenses. It actually feels like it's been the other way around, right? Like Ron feels more progressive than I thought he was. And maybe he took that, whatever it was, 6 or 7 months, because he wasn't out of a job very long, and kind of went back and looked and said, this is how we did things, and that works. And this is how we did things, and it didn't work. And in his second go-around, he's trying things differently. So I'll give him credit for that. I'm not sure I understand why the Del Rio system, which seems to have worked for so long, doesn't work anymore. And part of that I know from last year's team, like there will be certain things about last year's defense that will get better this year simply because they couldn't get any worse, right? Like third down defense last year was 31 out of 32. You just got to assume that it's not going to be that bad again. They couldn't stop the run at all last year. You got to assume that that's going to change a little bit. I'm assuming that's why they went out and got guys like Phil Mathis.
Yeah,
right. Sure. I mean, when people said, well, I don't understand why they, let Tim Settle go, and I don't understand why they let Matt Ioannidis go. Those guys didn't even cost a lot of money. And my response always was, well, that ought to tell you that that's not what they wanted. If a guy was on the cheap and you already had him and knew exactly what he was about, then it would have been easy to keep him. And I think that's why Phil's here. And the interesting thing is, and Adam is an Alabama guy, you'll know this, he's not just a run stuffer. You don't just like stumble your way into what he had 9 sacks last year for Alabama.
Yeah.
He'll stumble into 9 sacks by being a run stuffer that got lucky. To me, that should spell the end for Daron Payne, Ryan. I keep hearing that they'd like to keep him and find a way to do that. Feels fiscally irresponsible.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to do that when you have Montez Sweat and Chase Young next up in line to get paid. And then plus you spent a second-round pick on another Alabama interior guy. So you kind of see the end of the road for Daron Payne, most likely after this year. Maybe they franchise tag him and try to trade him, or maybe just franchise tag him for another year and have him stick around, depending on what Mathis does this year. But the thing is with Payne, I'm just not willing to pay someone big money, which he's going to get. He, in my opinion, I think he could be getting money somewhere near Jonathan Allen if he has a great year again this year. It's going to be a big loss losing Payne, though, I will say. He's not someone you can just pluck in and play with Fedarian Mathis. I don't think that's going to be the ideal scenario unless he just comes out and dominates this year. But, yeah, I think it's going to be the end of the road for Payne most likely. So we'll see.
Poor Payne was in that draft with Derwin James, and I'll never forget half the fan base was all about Daron Payne and half the fan base was all about Derwin James.
Exactly.
Adam, that's the way to go, right? You keep Montez Sweat and tell Daron, thanks for a good 5 years, right? You can't pay him, can you?
I was looking for, if that broken jaw last year was such a freak thing. I think if you don't have that, I think he gets 10 plus sacks, and we're not even having this conversation. And maybe they even try to move Payne before that, but there's no way. I just talked to my cap guys, and they're just like, the way the money is levied out right now. Even Montez Sweat aside, you're going to have Allen and him making that kind of money in the interior. It doesn't make sense. Those aren't both combined going to be 80-85% snap guys. One of those guys is going to be less. Allen is probably going to be your 80% guy, and Payne will probably be closer to 65-70% depending on packages. But you're not going to put that much money in the interior. So again, Mathis. The question marks I get too. He was quiet until last year. There wasn't really much going on with him. I really watched him turn it up last year. 9 sacks, a little bit deceiving. I think it was one game he got 3. So the sack total is great. But again, it's the way he plays. I think you had issues with the run. That's what he's going to do for you right away. He's going to be your guy even with Payne. I still think Mathis, maybe not early in the beginning, but at least second part of the season, he's going to be, your core first down run stuffer because that's what he does. But, he showed, the ability to really, get under pads and be, a decent pass rusher last year. But he's got a long way to go there. Payne is way ahead of him. But I think they're just, like I said, they're going to roll the dice. If he has a lights out year, Payne gets 12 plus sacks, whatever. Exactly. Then you talk about he's in demand. If he's in the top 3 defensive tackles in the league, yeah, you franchise him. Somebody will make a deal with you. So I think they're rolling the dice on that, but I think the writing was on the wall when they made the pick that early on defensive tackle, because that one even surprised me. I thought they'd go the free agent route.
Yeah,
I did too, and it's interesting. I think that because the line is so good and it's stacked with big names that and Duran is one of those, but I still think Duran's underappreciated. Yes. I don't think he's even gotten close. Like I say this all the time, and I'm not afraid to say it. If Duran ever hit his ceiling, I think he looks like Warren Sapp. Like that's the kind of player I think he could be if he ever got up there. Now I'm not suggesting he's gotten up there or even close to there, but that's the kind of body mold he could be, kind of disruptor he could be. And the fact that I think the thing that makes it hardest to keep him, to your point, is they just gave Jonathan Allen $18 million. I can't see a world where Jerron Payne wants to be lined up next to his good buddy making $5 million less a year, right? Like, I mean, he's not going to take $15 million to look at Jonathan Allen making $18 million. It's just not how it works.
Yeah.
Do you like this 5 defensive lineman look they've been rolling out?
I do.
And does that help them get with, say it's 3 or 4 games, does this kind of allow, with Phil Mathis there, does it allow them to kick Jonathan Allen to DN sometime while we're waiting for Chase Young?
I hope so. I really hope so, because again, you hear Ron Rivera talking about the guys, Hill, James Smith-Williams, who I interviewed, great guy, all great guys, but these are utility, situational guys, Shaka Toney. But if you can have Allen slide out there, he did it at Alabama, granted different defense, different formations, but again, if you can do that, that's ideal, because I think the more you can have your playmakers on the field, the better, because we saw from Jonathan Allen, that guy, he got the money and turned it up another level. So any way you can keep him on the field longer and, get more size and get more stout up front, I'm all for it, because I think if you stop the run, you have a chance in most of these games this year. Just look at the schedule. If they can do that, they'll be in every game.
Yeah.
And Chris Baker tells me all the time he thinks Allen's got another level to jump. Like, he doesn't think he's maxed out yet, which I agree. Adam, give us just a couple of minutes. Explain the difference, because I think people hear this 5 defensive man alignment and think, well, what's the difference between that and your basic 34? Big difference, though. That's not what they're doing.
Yeah, from what I'm understanding, exactly. Just you're having more interior guys, because like that's what they like to do in the 3-4. But I think with this situation, more interior guys, more guys with pass rushing ability up front. But I think with that it's a necessity thing, because I don't think that they have the guys at outside linebacker, middle linebacker with the size that can really contribute. So I'll admittedly, I'm not too versed in, the front, but I think in Washington scenario, you got a lot of size up front with that 5, and I think you could just do a lot of damage with it.
Yeah.
Ryan, I know when we were talking before the show started, you are optimistic for a fun season this year. I think I am. Is that because you think we got the offense geared up? You think we're actually going to see some points being put up this year? Because, football's a race to 40 now. It's not outlasting somebody 17-14.
Yeah, I think in the last few years, I've been feeling really good about the defense going into camp and into the season. And this year, I feel really good about the offense, honestly. I think the offensive line is stout. Not a lot of people think that, but I think the interior with Wes Schweitzer, Chase Rouillet, and whoever shakes up at left guard, and then plus Sam Cosmi, Charles Leno at the ends there, I think that's a very good offensive line that people underrate. And then obviously we have Terry McLaurin, money man. He's going to do what Terry does. He's going to go deep. He's going to do everything the team asks for, and he's going to make contested catches whenever you need them. And then also with Jahan Dotson, I look at him and I see all these highlights of him. He's kind of like a Terry McLaurin clone. Like, he really reminds me a lot of Terry McLaurin. I think a lot of people have said that. A lot of people have comped him to that. So if you're going to have two Terry McLaurins out there, I think that's going to make your offense a lot better. Plus, with the tight end situation, I think we have a pretty good tight end situation and tight end room right now in general, especially with the rookie Cole Turner. I mean, that guy is Jay Gruden's dream. I mean, Jay wanted to have a big target to go up in the end zone, throw up that fade, and he's gonna catch it. And so I'm looking forward to this offense this year. And then obviously Logan Thomas coming back when he's healthy. I think he's going to provide a lot. And then also with the running back room, I think J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, and then Brian Robinson. Adam was touching on him earlier. I think he could be very good in this offense, especially as a workhorse guy. It's what he's done. So,
Ryan, as we wrap up here, what makes a good season? Let's put it like that. What makes a good season for you?
Oh, man. So I think what makes a good season for me is having 10 wins this year. I think the goal should be to go 10-7 this year, have a great offense. I think we have the capabilities. I think we have the weapons to become a top 12 offense in the NFL. If everyone stays healthy, if Wentz stays healthy, I think this is one of the best weapons Wentz has had around him in a while, maybe since the year that Philly made the Super Bowl run. And even then, I think there's an argument to be made that the weapons we have now is better than that. So I think they don't have the offensive line that they had, but I think we have a nice weaponry and nice arsenal for Scott Turner to use. I like what he's been doing. So I think if he draws up the right plays, everyone stays healthy, off the COVID list, I think it's going to be a fun season. That's what I think.
And Adam, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the same question.
Yeah, like I always like to go back to the NFC East. Right now, I think for once, I think we have the least amount of question marks because Philadelphia, I think their quarterback has been looking like garbage this training camp. And I think that, you take that with a grain of salt. But again, another Alabama guy, and I will tell you, scream from the roof, he has no business being a starter. He can move. He's more of a Cordell Stewart kind of guy if you want to go back that far as how good he can get, but I don't think he's anywhere near that level. Daniel Jones, that's another one I think that totally overrated, and I think that, he's going to have a down year. And Dallas. I think Dallas, they ride on Dak all day long. I think as important as Carson Wentz is to Washington, Dak is everything for Dallas. So for me, a great season. It's sweeping Dallas and probably, it's probably splitting with the others. But 10, 11 wins, I think is definitely doable. I think everything has to come together. I think that offensive line has to stay relatively healthy. Carson Wentz, we have to see him for, at least, 14, 15 games. I'd be surprised if we see the full season. And game has got to get going. Like I said, Robinson's the best way to go. But, in the end, I think that Turner will rely heavy on a lot of quick game, a lot of move in the pocket. I do think we're going to see a lot more RPO with Carson Wentz. That's something that he's able to do effectively. So to me, it's 11 wins and a first-round playoff win. To me, that's a great season. Anything less than that, again, people can say that he's still building, but we've heard that since Snyder's taken over the team. So it's got to be 10, 11 wins, first-round playoff win.
And if they get 10 to 11 wins, then they're giving Carson Wentz a big contract extension, right? Like, yeah. Giving him all the money.
Exactly. Hey, if you're gonna win, man, if you're gonna look good, if you're gonna give me an opportunity to win week in and week out, that's just all I need right now at QB. That's all I need. I can't throw up YOLO balls anymore with Heineke. I can't watch that. Terry's gotta stay healthy, man. That's what we need.
Huge.
Ryan, what do you guys got coming up on the Bit Season podcast?
Oh, man. So on Bit Season, I know in the next month, we're going to have the Junkies Poker Open. That's going to be at MGM National Harbor, and we're trying to do a live Bit Season recording there in front of everyone. Cakes was saying the other day that he's expecting 800 to maybe even 1,000 people there. Oh, wow. So it's going to be a massive turnout. So, yeah, every Thursday, Bit Season drops. So it's been a ton of fun.
Absolutely. And Adam, I know you guys are always got stuff pumping out over there at the Burgundy and Gold Report. What should we be looking out for coming up?
I thought I was done with the undrafted series going into training camp, but after today, you're talking about Sammy Reyes. All of them are down. So I'll have an article about Curtis Hodges. I'll be spending the rest of the day watching his ASU film. 6'8", 240. Another former receiver, 5-year. That's definitely the trend for the undrafted and drafted guys for Ron Rivera. But other than that, B&G Report Happy Hour on YouTube, the Burgundy and Gold Report channel. We're about to drop our second episode of the season. Just me in my man cave attic, just talking a little ball. Quick episodes, usually about to 10 minutes. But other than that, just find my stuff, the burgundyandgoldreport.com.
Awesome.
And just as a note, Logan Paulson told me he likes Curtis Hodges better than Cole Turner and all the rest of them. So I'll be curious what your thoughts on there. He's really high on the kid out of Arizona State.
Oh, yeah.
Fellas, this was a blast, man. I appreciate both
man.
of y'all for doing this with me today.
This was awesome, Doug, man. You have me on anytime.
Definitely.
We'll do it. All right. Thanks, fellas.
Have a good one, guys.